chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success of the Krishna Prema. Once again, I thank everyone for joining the Bhakti Sangha conference call today. Let us move to our next session, which is today we are analyzing the prayers in Bhagavatam. May I know who all have joined the class this morning?
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dhanavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. And Guru Maharajas, my humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I offer my blessings to all the Simon devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Arun from West Bengal.
Hare Krishna and Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Padma Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karna Devidasi.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj ki Jai. This is Shyamagauri Devidasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Shyamagauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to assembled devotees. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves today? I would like to move to the next part, which is we would like to give this call to Tiffany Mataji to give brief introduction about Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, thank you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It is always such a special time, a special class when we get to have the presence of His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is a monk, mentor, and spiritual author. He has been educated in electronics and telecommunications engineering from the Government College of Engineering in Pune. He subsequently served as a software engineer in a prominent multinational software corporation, and seeing the prevalent problems of stress, depression, addiction, and overall misdirection, all due to the lack of spirituality, he felt inspired to dedicate his life to the cause of sharing the spiritual wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. He has traveled all over the world, from Australia to America, giving talks on spiritual subjects in universities such as Princeton and Cambridge, and companies such as Intel and Microsoft. Prabhuji is the author of the world's only Gita daily feature, wherein he writes a 300-word inspirational reflection on a verse from Bhagavad Gita. As of now, he has written over 1,700 Gita meditations that are posted on gitadaily.com and are read through daily feeds by thousands from all over the world. He also answers questions by seekers on his site, thespiritualscientist.com, where his over 3,500 audio answers and several hundred articles are available. His articles have been published in many national newspapers, including Indian Express, Economic Times, and the Times of India in the Speaking Tree column. His writings in English have been translated into several foreign languages and several Indian languages as well. He is a member of ISKCON's leading intellectual body, the Shastric Advisory Council, and is the associate editor of ISKCON's global magazine, Back to Godhead. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has also written 16 books, I think probably more than that by now, and we're so happy to have him with us this morning. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Let's see, we have Prabhu on the call. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji is
Prabhuji
not
is-
there on the call. Do you see? Ah, yes, he is there, Mataji.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's connecting. Audio is connecting.
Maybe he has some network issue.
Yeah, it says connecting audio, Mataji, connecting to audio.
Mataji, Prabhuji has joined from 2 devices,
Two
so you
devices.
can see both. So
Yes,
one
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you very much for your time today, Prabhu, and giving us speaking on the topic of analyzing prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. I would like to hand over the call to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, whenever you are ready. Prabhuji, can you hear us, Prabhu? I'm still seeing connecting to audio. I don't know.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji. You're audible now, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, happy to be here with all of you.
Please take over the call whenever you are ready, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Recording in progress.
It is going.
Is it recording?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is echoing.
What is the reason for that?
Prabhuji, you'll have to turn off speaker volume on the other device.
The audio band here.
You have 2 devices.
It's the output band here. See, the audio is close to you. Audio disconnected.
I think now it is okay, Prabhu.
Okay. Let's log in once again. Okay, now.
Still there is a background, but it is a little bit better.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare. I think good Prabhu now.
Thank you. So, thank you. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanshalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And so today we'll discuss a quick recap of what is happening in this particular canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam and in this particular section. And based on that, we'll discuss the theme of prayers. So if we look at this particular canto of the Bhagavatam, we see that the first 3 chapters are about the prayers. First 3 chapters are about Ajamil's pastime. Then the next prayers are about Daksha and his sons, his progeny basically. Now in the last chapter, Indra's arrogance leading to his offense of Brahaspati has been described. So if you see at one level, it's a linear narrative going down. At another level, this pastime of Ajamil is slightly, you could put it this way, that if you consider the structure of the Bhagavatam, so if we look at Bhagavatam, structure, then what do we notice is 2 things. That the Bhagavatam is spoken at multiple levels, it is moving its flow. So if we consider the Bhagavatam moving from the Canto 1 to Canto 12. So if we consider from Canto 3 onwards, the Bhagavatam is describing more or less one day in Brahma's life. So it is describing one day in Brahma's life. And while describing this, what it does is one Brahma's day. And in describing this, it goes through primarily the various dynasties. The linear succession is from Canto 3 to Canto 7. There is a description, if you consider this is Canto 8 starting. So Canto 3 roughly to Canto 7 is the description of Swayambhuva Manu's life. And thereafter, after the description of Swayambhuva Manu, then there is a description of Vaivasvat Manu. So this is Swayambhuva Manu, sorry. And then after that, there is a description of, so this is Canto 8 onwards. There is a description of Vaivasvat Manu. And this Vaivasvat Manu is also who is described in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, Imam Vivasvate Yogam, Proktavanaham. Now, when describing this, the Bhagavatam moves in a particular way. The Bhagavatam's movement happens. So this is the linear flow of the Bhagavatam. And while this is happening, while describing the distance of Vaivasut Manu, it goes down, sorry, Swayambhu Manu, it goes down. And right now, Vaivasut Manu is assisted in the creation by Daksha. So I'm not going to the particular chronological sequence. But here, the key principle is that in the descendants from Daksha, his daughters, they are going, that story is going on. And here at this particular time, from the daughters, there are a progeny. And if normally we consider Indra to be far superior to Daksha, yes, in the universal administration, Indra has a far more important position than Daksha. But Daksha is a progenitor. So now an incident is being described where Indra has offended Brihaspati. So if you consider among the progeny that are coming from here, there are Brahmanas and there are Kshatriyas. Of course, there are others also, but most of the Bhagavatam focuses on these two varnas. So here, Indra is the quintessential Brahmana. He is the person who delights in power and pleasure and luxury, and of course, he's pious. So, Brahmanas, you can say there is piety. Piety means he does dharmic rituals. There is power, great power, and there is great pleasure. He has the apsaras. So, Brahmana among them, guiding him is Brihaspati. So, the idea is that the universe is ultimately sustained by dharma. If you see dharma culminating in bhakti, we see Daksha, what he does is his dharma. Now, of course, his dharma comes in, we could say that dharma and bhakti, they come in conflict. They are not equal. There's a tension between them. It's a question mark. There's a tension between dharma and bhakti that was described in Narabuni was over here. Now, basically, the idea of the Bhagavatam is, while describing the significant incidents in the narration of the Bhagavatam, in the narration of during one day of Brahma, significant incident in one day of Brahma, the Bhagavatam in various ways is contrasting bhakti with other parts and is establishing the supremacy of bhakti. So if we consider, so there are various, there is dharma, then there is jnana, there is tapa, but above them all is bhakti. And in one sense, this is a greater than sign. How bhakti is greater than dharma, bhakti is greater than jnana, bhakti is greater than tapa. It's not just greater, it's much, much greater. That is described. So now, in the previous chapter, it was described, previous section, to the pastime of Daksha, it was described how Daksha was dharmic, but his dharma was not enough. He, as compared to him, Nalaguna Bhakti was far greater. Now, sometimes dharma is contrasted with bhakti directly, and sometimes in the Bhagavatam, the problems in doing dharma are described. Okay. So sometimes, if somebody is doing dharma, so they are so we could say dharma is the path of gradual elevation. No, there is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. This is gradual elevation. And as contrasted to that, is the path of bhakti, which is the path of rapid elevation from where we are. So when the Bhagavatam is describing these two paths, sometimes it compares these two and describes how dharma is bhakti is higher. But sometimes it describes how, while following the path of dharma, somebody who is going like this may sometimes go down like this. And when that person has to come up again, then they will need bhakti at that time. So Indra's trajectory is this trajectory. Indra's story is described over here. So Indra is actually performing dharma. But while performing dharma, what happens to him? He succumbs, he falls. And that fall is described over here. And the Narayan Kavach prayers that are described is basically these particular prayers. The Nara, as the name itself is, Narayan Kavach. Kavach is protection. So these prayers that are the current chapter, they're describing how somebody following the path of dharma falls and they rise up. So this is the path of dharma. And Indra has fallen, Indra has gone down. Indra has become powerless. Now when he has to rise up, he is practicing bhakti. How is he practicing bhakti? Because he's actually taking shelter of the Lord. He is, practically speaking here, going to offer prayers. So those prayers are described in this chapter. And when he has offended, see now, is there a difference between dharma and bhakti? Well, yes, dharma we can say is multi-level. Dharma is a multi-level word. Dharma can simply mean at one level duty. It can mean morality. It can mean piety. But at the topmost level, it means bhakti. This is, for example, Sarvadharman Parityajamam Sharanam Smita. So, dharma can mean many of these things or any of these things. In general, what it means is, it generally the Bhagavatam contrasts dharma with bhakti. So, bhakti is paradharma. And everything apart from paradharma, the Bhagavatam starting point is dharma projahita kaitotra paramo nirmatsaram. So, all these, the Bhagavatam will repeatedly show that all of these are inadequate. So when the Bhagavatam says that dharma projahita, sometimes it's strongly translated as kicked out. But when kicking out, it does not mean that they are condemned. They are also very important in human society, and they need to be followed. But they are followed, although they are followed, they are not sufficient for either bringing contentment to the heart, or they are not sufficient for helping us to attain, to actually do good in the world. That is the inadequacy. So there is an inner inadequacy and there is an outer inadequacy. Inner, we don't find contentment. We don't find satisfaction. And outer, whatever contribution we do, whatever service we try to do, whatever duties we try to perform, they all turn out to be inadequate. That is what is being shown in the Bhagavatam. Now, the prayers of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that was our broad topic. So, till now, the first topic I discussed is the overall structure and flow of the Bhagavatam and how the Bhagavatam is chronologically. So, when I talked about Bhagavatam structure, I talked about two things: the chronological and the conceptual. So, chronologically, it's describing one day of Brahma. Conceptually, it is contrasting bhakti with other things and establishing the supremacy of bhakti, inadequacy of everything else. So this is the two parts of the structure of the Bhagavatam. So now within this purpose of the Bhagavatam, what role do the prayers play? Well, broadly speaking, let's look at it. So now prayers in Bhagavatam, if you consider, see broadly, the prayers in the Bhagavatam are of three kinds. If you consider, this is the spiritual level of reality, and here Krishna exists. Spiritual level. This is the material level of reality. So now the prayers of the Bhagavatam are of the first kind of prayer is where the devotees are here and they are offering prayers to Krishna. These are pure devotees. They are already at the spiritual level and they are pleasing Krishna with their prayers. So the example of this is these prayers. They can be exemplified by the Gopi Geet, Venu Geet. All these are prayers where the devotee is simply expressing their love for Krishna. And there is not a tinge of material emotion in there. Then another kind of prayers are, we could say these are the, so these are devotees, and we could put as pure devotees. Then there are others are, these are the second kind of prayers, where there are, these are the prayers by devotee seekers. That means these devotees aim to attain Krishna. So the example of this you could say is the Dhruva Maharaj's prayers, Dhruva's prayers. Let's put it. So the Dhruva's prayers. But now Dhruva's prayers are described in the Bhagavatam and they are also described in the Harivamsha and other places. So for example, Kacham Vichimanapi Divyaratni. Even Prahlad's prayers will fall over here. Dhruva's prayers are, Dhruva started off with a material platform, on the material platform, seeking the kingdom. But when he saw the Lord, at that time, he desired the Lord and said, I don't want anything else. I don't want anything else alone. So we can say these are prayers seeking pure devotional service. So now, of course, even pure devotees don't always say that they have pure devotion. And so Prahlad Maharaj goes through different moods. Some of Prahlad Maharaj's prayers also fall in this category, where he's playing the role of a conditioned soul. And he says, my senses are Bhavya Sapatnya Vage Patim Dinanti. He says that how the tongue is being pulling me in one direction, the eyes are pulling me in another direction, like that. So now there is another kind of prayer, which is basically, if you consider it this way, is again the spiritual level, the material level. And these are prayers to Krishna to change something at the material level. So these are, you could say, material prayers. The previous two prayers are spiritual prayers. So material prayers means what? See, in these prayers, in this set of prayers, if you consider the purpose is the attainment of Krishna. The purpose is Krishna, very clearly. Whoever is praying, they are praying to attain Krishna. Either they are gopis are with Krishna in their heart, but they also want to be Krishna externally. Dhruva now doesn't want the kingdom, just wants Krishna. So here the purpose is Krishna. In the second kind of prayer that we are talking about, in these prayers, here the purpose is not Krishna. Here the purpose is actually some material gain. The purpose is material gain. Now, why is this material gain an important purpose over here? Because the problem here is that the seeker is not pure. So now, why are the prayers seem to reach Krishna, that talk of the spiritual level? because the content of the prayers is often very elevated, very transcendent. Now, some of these prayers will even be not just like this, but it just touches the spiritual. Some of these prayers are almost entirely spiritual, but at the end they come down. And there's one place where the devatas pray like this, and the Lord is very disappointed when they are praying for protection from the asuras. The Lord Vishnu says, I would anyway have protected you. You would have to ask me for it. Now, these prayers are not to be condemned. They are not condemned in the Bhagavatam. If you see in the subsequent chapter when the prayers come about, the prayers are largely material. They are actually prayers for self-protection. May the Lord protect this limb, may the Lord protect that limb, may this manifestation of the Lord protect this limb, may this manifestation of the Lord protect that limb, may this manifestation of the Lord protect this thing for me, this possession or this relationship or whatever it is. So, now if the Bhagavatam is a book of pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, then why is it talking about such prayers? And this is a very important point to understand. So we talked about broadly about three kinds of prayers. Prayers by pure devotees, prayers by bhakti seekers, Krishna seekers, and prayers by those for whom bhakti and Krishna are means to an end. So let's try to understand this from a slightly different perspective. That if you can say, if you consider like a 4-quadrant diagram, we have means is bhakti, and here we have purpose is Krishna. And here we have Krishnetara, something other than Krishna is the means, and here Bhaktetara. So something else is the means. That means a person is pursuing jnana, dhyana, bhakti. So the purpose of the Bhagavatam is ultimately to show how everyone comes from all these other quadrants to this quadrant. That means somebody is neither practicing bhakti nor are they worshipping Krishna. They also come to Krishna. And the example of this is, we can say Shukadeva Goswami himself, Shuka. So he was an impersonalist. There is also description of the Kumaras. The Kumaras, when they had gone to see Vishnu, they were not purely out of bhakti. Let's keep that example aside for the time being. The Shukadeva Goswami, he was not really seeking bhakti. Nor was he not practicing bhakti, nor was he seeking Krishna. We just knew when he was in his mother's womb, actually, the world is such a terrible place. I don't want to get entangled. So if I'll stay here itself. So his purpose was, you could say, mukti. Just stay unentangled. Avoid getting entangled. That was his primary purpose. And his process was just stay away. That means stay away from Maya. There's no active Shravanam Kirtanam. But when he heard the pastimes of Krishna, what happened was he was elevated. He was transformed. Now, for some people, now as I said, purpose is Krishna, means is bhakti. We have the topmost example of this is the gopis. Now, for somebody, the purpose is something other than Krishna, but the means is bhakti. The example of this is Dhruva. There are many other examples. We will have later. Diti also is told to the Payovrata. But in the Payovrata sacrifice, the whole focus is on worshipping Krishna, on worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And now somebody desires to attain Krishna, but they don't practice bhakti. So that is generally very rare. Somebody thinks that actually maybe jnana is better. So sometimes we use the word impersonalist in a very broad way. So to some extent, Maitreya Rishi falls in this category. See, when Uddhava starts speaking the Uddhav Gita, or rather Uddhava and Vidura have a discussion, and at that time Uddhava is speaking to Vidura and Maitreya is nearby, and then after that the Uddhava hears the whole incident. Uddhava hears the Uddhav Gita, and then Vidura goes and hears instructions from Maitreya. Now Maitreya Rishi is not technically, he's not ignorant of Krishna, but he's a little bit more oriented toward jnana than toward bhakti. So we could say that in this we can also have Aishwarya Jnana, and we have Aishwarya Purna Bhakti, and we have Madhurya Purna Bhakti. So anyway, this can seem a little complicated, but essentially what is this? It is this trajectory that is most common, and this is what is described in the Bhagavatam again and again. And this particular prayer that is happening, Indra's Narayan Kavacha prayers, it falls in this category, the Narayan Kavach. That is also a prayer in this category where the idea is somebody wants something material, they want protection from the Lord, physical protection, protection of property, and they are going to the Lord for it. So is this good? Well, what is good and bad depends on where someone is. So let's consider it this way. With this I will conclude, and then we can have some questions. So there's all this talk about prayers. It's more a talk about analysis of prayer. So we won't have too many prayers in this. So say this is the pure devotional service. This is, okay, let's put it this way. This is devotional service. This is dharma. Dharma means somebody doing yajna, which Vishnu's name will be chanted, but the focus is not Vishnu. And say below is adharma. Adharma itself can be many things. Adharma can be that a person is a good person, moral person, but they have no God in their life. It can also mean is an atheistic person and a materialistic person and a immoral person. There could be many degrees in this. So for somebody to come down from here to here, that is a bad thing. If somebody can be practicing pure devotional service, for them to come here is bad. For them to come from here to here, that means somebody gives up the practice of bhakti and starts doing dharma. That is really bad. But for, of course, you could say the verse is here itself, going all the way down. Somebody gives up bhakti and comes down to the level of adharma. That is the verse. We don't want that. But in contrast, if we consider, let's put it this way here. So, if somebody, now, if anybody is here, from here they come up, that is good. From here they come up, that is even better. Now, from here they come up till here, that is also good. From here somebody comes up to here, that means from pure devotional service somebody rises to pure devotional service, that's good. From dharma somebody rises to Shuddha Bhakti, that is great. From dharma if somebody comes to bhakti, that is also good. From adharma somebody comes to bhakti, that is also good. Now from adharma somebody goes all the way to Shuddha Bhakti, because that is the greatest, that is the best. So the Bhagavatam has, when the Bhagavatam says that it rejects all other dharma, that doesn't mean it rejects all the people who are doing anything other than pure devotional service. It shows how anybody, whatever be their motive, they somehow come to Krishna. That is auspicious. The Jiva Goswami put this, not Jiva, Rupa Goswami put this in a very succinct way and emphasized the principle as Yena Kena Prakarena Mana Krishna. So Yena Kena Prakarena, what does this mean? What is this Yena Kena? He says somehow or the other. What does this mean? It basically means that whether Krishna is your purpose or whether Krishna is your means to some other purpose. Means to some other purpose. Means Krishna is what you want, or through Krishna we want something else. That is okay. As long as we are connecting with Krishna, that's great. And we have the celebrated verse in the Bhagavatam, where Gopya Kamad Bhayat Kamso Visha Chaitya that there were even negative emotions. Most of the gopis were pure devotees, but some of the gopis were not. They were just attracted to Krishna's beauty. And that's why the word Kama is used for. Bhayat Kamso. Kamsa was remembering Krishna out of fear. But even then he was elevated. So Yena Pina Prakarana, if you consider in this category, in this particular category, we will have Kamsa, the very negative emotion, the emotion of fear. Then we have Kamsa Dvisha Chaitya. Chaitya is Shishupal. He was envy. And then after that, other more favorable emotions are described. So either way, the point is that somehow or other fits the mind of Krishna. Now, what does this mean for us? That's for us, again, some of us sometimes think, oh, I have some problem with my job, but that's just material. I should not pray to Krishna about that. Maybe my child's marriage is not working out. No, they're not finding a partner, or that person having a problem in their relationship. But is that material? Should I pray to Krishna or not for that? Otherwise, you say, don't pray to Krishna for anything for us. My health is not good. Should I pray to Krishna or not? So the point is that praying to Krishna is always auspicious. So I'll conclude with this point and say, let's see if I can depict this properly. So if my consciousness is already here, this is the spiritual level. This, as I said, this is the spiritual level. This is the material level. If my consciousness is already at the spiritual level, then material things don't matter at all. And whatever happens at the material level, we will just be able to, it will be indifferent. Now, we all want to be at that spiritual level. And if for somebody who's at that level, whatever happens, Prahlad Maharaj, he's been attacked, he's been thrown down a mountain, thrown into a pit of snakes, but it's completely unaffected. Now, if suppose our consciousness is at this level, or maybe even our consciousness is somewhere here. So now material things do affect us. So the important thing is not whether my bhakti is pure. The important thing is whether my bhakti is there. That means that what is bhakti? Bhakti is the connection of the heart with Krishna. So at this point, when material things are important for us, rather than thinking, oh, this is material, I will not pray to Krishna for this. It's fine if that's what one wants to. Nothing, it's okay. But the problem with this approach is we are sometimes in denial. Material things are important for us. And when we don't pray to Krishna, what ends up happening is that our consciousness gets split. That means we connect one part of our life with Krishna. Other part of life, I should not be praying to Krishna for this. But my thoughts are going there. What will happen about this? What will happen about that? We say I should not have any fear. Well, I should have faith in Krishna. Well, what if I don't have that faith in Krishna? We can't just beat ourselves up for not having faith. We can't beat ourselves up for having fear. If we have that fear, then pray to Krishna. So we can pray to Krishna seeking a solution, but not insisting on a solution. So how can our prayers be in the domain of pure devotional service? Well, there is pure devotional service and there is aspiring pure devotional service. So a devotee desires but doesn't demand. So ideally, this can apply for Krishna itself. A devotee wants darshan of Krishna, but a devotee doesn't demand the darshan of Krishna. If we start demanding, then we are not servants of Krishna. We seek, we aspire, we beg, but we don't demand. But this can also be applied to things connected with our service to Krishna. With our service to Krishna. So, now sometimes we say that, not sometimes, many times we say that human form is so rare. That it is so rare, we should not waste it. And that's definitely true. But what does that mean? The human form is not, it's the human body. It is the human body that is rare. And this human body is in one sense a gift that we have got from Krishna. And taking care of that gift given by Krishna is also a service to Krishna. And if that body is not functioning, seeking and striving and praying for it to function properly, so that we can serve Krishna better. That is nothing outside the domain of devotional service in that. Sometimes we see that, okay, we should see Krishna everywhere, but I don't see Krishna in my body. Sometimes we have a very negative vision of the body. The body is just Vyadhi Mandir. Yeah, it is just a temple of. So, the body, for example, the body is, some people say it's a Vyadhi Mandir. It's just a place of disease. Well, that may be true. The body has so many diseases. But the other extreme is the materialist thing that is a bhoga vastu. This is the karmi vision. This is the jnani vision. Jnani vision is the body is just a source of distress. We may think that this vision is higher than the vision of seeing the body as full of distress, a source of distress, is better than seeing the body as a source of pleasure. Well, true at one level, but actually speaking, the body is a Krishna Mandir. Paramatma is present over here, and that doesn't mean just we apply tilak. That means we take care of the body. And taking care of the body doesn't just mean we bathe regularly and do things like that. It also means that we see that this is a gift given by Krishna to us, and we take care of it. So, will this prayer be outside the domain of pure devotional service? Well, maybe. But then our life is, how much of our life is within the domain of pure devotional service? We want pure devotional service, no doubt about it. But more important than, so we cannot become pure devotees without first becoming devotees. We cannot have pure devotion without having devotion first. So, is a pure connection with Krishna important? Yes, of course it is important. But actually, this pure connection of Krishna, for that first we need a connection with Krishna. If I'm not seeing Krishna in connection with my body, if I'm not seeing Krishna in connection with my family, if I'm not seeing Krishna in connection with my daily life, then that doesn't show the purity of my Krishna consciousness. That shows the incompleteness of my Krishna consciousness. Now, we shouldn't simply be praying that, all our prayers should not just be that, oh Krishna, fix this problem for me, fix this problem for me, fix this problem for me. Not like that. Krishna, I want to serve you. And this thing is obstructing me in my service. So, like Prabhupada prayed, if you so desire, please fix this. And if that is not your desire, please give me the strength to serve you even while these problems exist. So expressing our desire without demanding, that is very much within the domain of pure devotional service. And this way, we can connect our entire life with Krishna. The Narayana Kavach prayers is like that. Indra, for him, yes, he is also a dharmic person. He also knows Vishnu is supreme. But for Indra, Vishnu is not the purpose. For him, Swarga is the purpose. So, for Indra, okay, Vishnu is up there somewhere. He's important. But why is Vishnu important? Because he says Vishnu will maintain Swarga for him. His consciousness goes up to Vishnu, but then comes down to Swarga. That's fine. Even if we have material attachments, still he's offering prayers. Even if he's seeking personal protection, still he's offering prayers. And that is what is illustrated in his prayers. These are definitely not the highest prayers, but that does not mean that they are rejected by the Bhagavatam. They are included in the Bhagavatam, and they are a demonstration of akamaha sarvakamo, moksha kamodara, tivrena bhakti yogena jeta purusham. So, I'll conclude with one practical example of this. There is one devotee who, a couple I know, they were in Eurasia, Australia, New Zealand part of the world. So Mataji was pregnant, and she had a lot of difficulty in conceiving before that. And then the doctor told that this pregnancy is also a lot of danger. And then she talked with her devotee guides, and they said, just accept whatever is Krishna's plan. Just focus on accepting Krishna's plan. And then she talked with me. I connected with some other devotees also. And at that stage, naturally, the mother is carrying a child in her womb. Her thoughts will be with the child. She says, we pray to Krishna, and we chant Krishna's name, we worship Krishna. And at this stage, we focus more on remembering Krishna than on specifically like renouncing the attachment for the baby, whatever Krishna will accept. Now that attachment at that point is extremely almost hard-hearted and cruel to tell someone to renounce that attachment. At that time, we spiritualize that attachment. So both the Mataji and her husband, they told me, in her entire life for those 2-3 months, the last few months of the pregnancy and over 1 month after the baby was born, when baby was in ICU, we had never chanted as intensely as we chanted in that time. We were begging to Krishna for that baby to be. We wanted to have a child. We wanted the child to grow up and become a devotee. We wanted a child. So it is before that my heart was so conflicted. I want a child. Is that a material desire? Well, material is a very big word. Material desire has sattva-guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. And sattva-guna is quite favorable to devotional service. So a desire to have a child, desire to raise a child responsibly. That is not a material desire in the same sense of the word as, say, a person who is just greedy for money, or a person who is lusty for any and every attractive sense object that passes their way. So, now the child is growing up and he's such a deep attraction to Krishna he has. Whether they attracted a soul who's devoted or whether all that chanting help, child is in good health. So the principle is that analysis is that actually that attachment, even if it's a material attachment, if that material attachment is inspiring us to remember Krishna, to call out to Krishna. Then somebody will say, no, but if you pray to Krishna at that time, that prayer is not fulfilled. And then something goes wrong, then we lose our faith in Krishna. Well, not necessarily. We should have enough faith in Krishna that Krishna has a plan. Somebody remembers him, even with the material desire. The philosophy everybody knows, or at least we know as devotees. So if later on something doesn't work out the way we want, we can accept it that time. But the important thing is to stay connected with Krishna on a regular basis. So that is what is being done in this particular prayer. Akamaha sarvakamo va moksha kamodara tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham. Let's summarize. I discussed 3 things. First is, the first point was structure of Bhagavatam. We discussed this to demonstrate how there are different kinds of prayers in the Bhagavatam. Then broadly, when I talked about, the second point was 3 kinds of prayers. Prayers by pure devotees, prayer by devotee seekers, and prayer by those who are not seeking devotees, seeking bhakti, but something material, Krishna. And then the Bhagavatam, we discussed how it is conclusive. That means it clearly establishes bhakti is supreme. But at the same time, it is inconclusive. It is not, it is also inclusive. It does not reject. Those in the Bhagavatam definitely glorifies and establishes how pure love for Krishna is the highest. But for those who cannot live at that level, cannot function at that level, cannot pray at that level, the Bhagavatam includes them at its range and encourages them to gradually come to the level of bhakti. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Are there any
Krishna.
questions?
Thank you so much for the wonderful analysis and enlightening us in this topic, Prabhuji. Yeah, devotees, if you have any questions, you can raise the hands or you can go ahead and ask. I don't see raised hands. Let me check. I don't see raised hands. Prabhuji, I have a question, Prabhuji, if I may ask.
Yes. Yes, please.
So, sometimes always connect with Krishna. Sometimes if we don't have the taste, will the prayers help asking Krishna to help me to get that taste and I don't know if I may.
Yes, definitely. There are different kinds of prayers. There are also Lalsamai prayers, where sometimes it talks about how you have a particular Lalsa. You pray for taste in Bhagavatam, you can pray for taste in the holy name, you can taste for service to devotees. So yes, those kind of prayers will definitely help.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. I see Sukhsagari Mataji raised her hand. Mataji, please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams. Dandavat pranams to all the devotees. Prabhuji, thank you for the very beautiful class. And I just have one question. You briefly mentioned about gopis who are attracted to the beauty of Krishna, and so they're not on the topmost level. But my understanding was that gopis are the topmost devotees. So can you please elaborate on that?
Different kinds of gopis. They're not only just one kind of gopis. Chakravarti Prabhu described this elaborately in his Bhagavatam commentaries. He says that there are at least 4 different kinds of gopis in that particular rasa arena. So the gopis who are there are topmost are the Nitya Siddha gopis. They are eternal associates of Krishna. Then there are also the sages who have come from Ram Leela. When they saw Lord Ram perform pastimes in Sita, they wanted to be with Lord Ram, and Lord Ram said, "Not in this lifetime, not on this avatar, next avatar." So the gopis who have come from were Ram Leela sages. They are also there. Then there are multiple sources, but there are also sadhana siddha. These are not completely pure, but they have performed the sadhana, and through the sadhana they are moving toward perfection, and they are there. And there are some gopis who were not yet. They're fortunate souls who had done some bhakti, who had done some punya. There are also actually some devkanyas who were there, some apsaras from Swarga also. They were attracted, and they later came as a gopis. So there are many different kinds of gopis. So generally, when we use the word gopis, we only refer to these kind of gopis. This is the gopis. This is what we generally refer to. But others are also there. So gopya kama, that applies. If it applies to this is the gopis, then it simply means the word kama does not refer to physical attraction. It refers to simply the spiritual attraction that the gopis have for Krishna. But sometimes the word kama can mean just attraction, overwhelming attraction. And sometimes calm can also refer to the physical attraction. But whichever way it is, in that sequence of the words, Gopya Kama Bhayat Kam Sudesha Chaya Deva, actually, the first three are negative. And then it goes to be more positive. Sambandha, then Maitra, then other things like that they are described. So, in that sense, this Kama, in the words of the Bhagavatam, can refer more likely to these fortunate souls of the Apsaras who were attracted through Kama, but that Kama was purified.
Sorry, Prabhu, thank you very much. But so these gopis, the other gopis who you just listed, other than the Nitya Siddhas, I presume they won't be directly associated in the service to Krishna, Radha and Krishna, right?
Well, eventually they will be. Because Krishna has thousands of gopis, and not everybody of them interact with him directly at one level. Krishna is personal with everyone, but at another level, directly, it is not that everybody is serving Krishna directly. Yeah, so they by serving those who are serving Krishna, they become purified. Gopi Bhartor Padakamalayur Das Dasana Das, like that. They serve the gopis who are serving Krishna. They serve the gopis who are serving the gopis who are serving Krishna, like that.
So is it still possible to go to Goloka, with, even if we had some impurities, like you said, they're not very pure. So, so is it possible to go to Goloka with some kind of impurities, Prabhu?
Ultimately, Krishna's purpose is to help us all come to Him. So, even if we don't go to Goloka, we go closer to Krishna. And from wherever we go closer to Krishna, we may enter into His pastime in this world. It's almost like being in Goloka, where Krishna comes here, like one of the spiritual world. From there, we may enter. I don't think we can make any categorical statement about who will go to Goloka. No, our focus should be ultimately about a relationship with Krishna. I want a relationship with the relationship of love. And if we truly love Krishna, because Krishna is our greatest salvation. So whether we go to the spiritual world or we go to some other place, Krishna will ensure that we stay connected with Him. Krishna will keep drawing us closer towards Him. So I think that sometimes there's infatuation, speculation, did this person go to Goloka? That can simply become a distraction from our relationship with Krishna. We focus on the point that we are developing a relationship with Krishna. Then Krishna will, and we try to act in that relationship. Krishna will draw us closer to Him. Let's leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Anand Vilas Prabhuji, please go ahead with your question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. I have two-part question. Probably one of them you already answered, but still I will talk about it. One is it correct to understand dharma as justice also? Justice. And part two is how do we know that?
Yes, of course, dharma is part of justice, definitely. But that will come broadly under morality. That dharma samsthapanatha can refer to law and order. Krishna comes to establish that disorder in the world. Krishna comes to establish order in the world. Dharma can have multiple meanings. This law and that's also included.
Your voice has echo through. Partly hard. I got it, but hard to understand a little bit. The part two is like how do we know that as much as we want to attain Krishna and Krishna wants us also, or he can say, what a rascal you are, right? How do we know that he wants us also as much as we want him?
How can we know that Krishna wants us? Well, one way is through Shastra. The Shastra describes how Krishna as a Paramatma is there in every soul's heart. Why would Krishna be there if he doesn't want us? Other way to understand is to look at various pastimes. How Krishna gives his mercy even to somebody like Putana, who came with a desire to kill him. And still Krishna delivered him. So we can also look at the testimony of the sages. That Chaitanya Maharaj says that even ordinary people who come for ordinary material purposes to Krishna, he fulfills even their desires. So why would he not fulfill our desire to be with him? So
Okay.
I think that if we study the scriptures and understand the import of scriptures, we will find that.
So there is no disqualification, right? Sort of thing.
Sorry?
So nothing is a disqualification as long as there is a sincere endeavor, right?
No, even if there is no sincere endeavor, still it is not a disqualification. Krishna is not just Bhakta Vatsala, Krishna is also Krupana Vatsala. Krishna is Svrudam Sarva Bhutana. Even if somebody is atheist, still Krishna wants them. So Krishna loves every single living being. I once gave a talk how God does not believe in atheists. Normally we say atheists don't believe in God, but God does not believe in atheists. Because for him, their atheism is just something superficial. He's actually, he is simply, he cares for everyone. So we could say that, if you put it in a particular way here. So Krishna has ever expanding circles of love. So if you consider Krishna over here at one place, then around it, this is Krishna, extending from him. One circle of love is of the gopis. They are an intimate circle of love. But beyond that, there is another circle of love. There are pure devotees. Then there is another circle of love. Krishna says, I am Brahmana Priya. There are Brahmanas who may not be devotees also. But like that, the circles keep going on. And the circle includes all living beings. So everybody.
Prabhuji, can you make your voice louder, please? Because it's not possible to write down what you're saying. Your voice is not clear.
So I'm saying that everybody is included in Krishna's circle of love. There is no one who is excluded. Because Krishna cares for everyone. So even if there is no sincere endeavor from somebody's part, even if there is defiance of Krishna, still Krishna cares for them. So everybody is included. These are all circles of love, and everyone has some place in the circle of love. Now, as we practice bhakti more and more, we will move towards a more and more intimate circle of love. But everybody is included in Krishna's circle of love. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. I think there are Pancha Prabhu, do you? Thank you. Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyascha Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Chaitanya Charan
Hare
Prabhu
Krishna,
ki
Hare Krishna,
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.